It's time for Recipe of the Day. Happy Taco Tuesday. There are so many different things that you can put in tacos, but my choice for today is some barbecue pulled pork with a coleslaw that goes perfectly with pulled pork. And there's a reason for that I will tell you about. Now, this pork is cooked in the slow cooker, but don't worry, if you don't want to do it in the slow cooker, I'm going to put links in the show notes for this podcast episode for how to cook the pork in the Instant Pot and in the oven as well. I have recipes for essentially pulled pork that is done in the Instant Pot and pulled pork that is done in the oven. Either of those is going to work instead. The other thing I'll say is that this recipe calls for a pork butt, which is a juicier cut of pork. But if you wanted to go with the pork loin, you can totally do that. And I will link to a version with pork loin as well. So I've got all of your different bases covered. And when in doubt, you can head over to cookthestory.com and just use the search function there to search for any of these things that you're looking for. And you're going to find them. There are so many recipes on that site. I've got whatever you're looking for sure. Okay, to start, we are using a 3-pound boneless pork butt. And if it is tied with string, cut the string off and discard it, and then sprinkle the pork all over with 1 teaspoon of salt. Then pour some barbecue sauce into the slow cooker. You're going in with 1 cup of your favorite barbecue sauce, or I will link to a homemade barbecue sauce in case you don't have one. That is going into the slow cooker. Then your seasoned pork butt goes in there, and you just kind of turn it all around to coat it in the sauce. Put the lid on the slow cooker and cook it on high for 4 hours or on low for 6 to 8 hours. Then you can mix up the dressing for your coleslaw. I'm just going to say I don't like to actually make the dressing and then mix it with the vegetables, with the cabbage and stuff, because then the liquid starts to come into the cabbage and it gets liquidy. I do make the dressing ahead of time, but I wait to mix them until the last minute. If you are planning to mix them right away, what you can do is actually pre-drain away that liquid. So what you do is you take your shredded cabbage and carrots, whatever mixture you're using, sprinkle it with a teaspoon of salt, stir it, and then let it sit at room temperature for 30 minutes. The salt is going to dry the moisture out, drain that liquid away, and then use that cabbage without any salt in the dressing. So omit the salt from the dressing. And then that is one way to do it. But I do find it easier to just make the dressing and then wait to dress the coleslaw vegetables until the last minute. So you're making up that dressing. It is 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of white vinegar, a half teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of garlic powder, and a half cup of mayonnaise. Mix that all together and pop it into the fridge covered until you're ready to mix it with your shredded cabbage. And I'll just tell you how to make that coleslaw now as well, so you know how to do that when the time comes. I'm using a 16-ounce bag of shredded coleslaw mix, shredded cabbage. That is, conveniently enough, the equivalent of 1 small head of cabbage shredded. So if you don't want to buy the shredded mix that's in a bag, you can get 1 small head of cabbage, take the core out, so you cut it in half, then you cut out the core, and then just slice it very, very thinly, and then run your knife through it in the other direction, and that will be it. It's going to be about 6 to 7 cups of sliced cabbage. I do like using that mix though, because it often has the 2 colors of cabbage in it, the green and the purple, and it often has carrot in it too, so you get all those colors with no effort. But whatever you want to do is totally fine. So then you just take that dressing that you made and you mix that with your cabbage, and then you're going to be ready to move on to shred your pork. Now, I did say I was going to tell you why this coleslaw is so perfect with pulled pork, and it's for 2 reasons. It's got quite a bit of garlic in there, and I just find that savory note goes so well with the pork. And then also, like I said, it's brown sugar instead of the more typical white sugar, and it just has that like molassesy kind of dark flavor that you get with like baked beans, or that's even in barbecue sauce. You can't really taste it, but it's kind of there, and it just pairs beautifully with the pulled pork. Okay, so now you have your coleslaw, and it is time to get that pork ready. So once the pork is cooked, and you of course want that to be at least 145 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's going to be higher than that because we're making pulled pork, so it's probably going to be closer to like 180. But you know, the safe temperature is 145 degrees Fahrenheit. So once that slow cooking time is done, transfer the pork to a medium bowl and use 2 forks to shred the pork into bite-sized pieces. Then you add in some of the cooking liquid from the slow cooker as much as you like, just to moisten that pork. Then get that coleslaw out that you've made and give that another stir. And then you are piling the pork and the coleslaw into soft flour tortillas. I'm going to tell you my favorite way to heat the tortillas is to just put a stack of them on a microwave safe plate topped with a damp paper towel and heat them in the microwave for 40 to 60 seconds. It's going to warm them through and keep them nice and soft. And then you're putting about a quarter cup of the pulled pork mixture into each of those small soft flour tortillas and a little bit of coleslaw, maybe a little green onion and a little extra barbecue sauce if you'd like. And then you're digging in. So easy and tasty for your Taco Tuesday. I will put the link to this recipe and all the other ones that I mentioned in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get all of that there as well. I want to remind you that I am on Instagram and TikTok. So if you want more great ideas, find me there. I'm at Cook the Story on both. And I am Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookville.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.